محمد وآله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Respected brothers and sisters present here, this session is quite an important one. However, before we begin the conversation proper, we should understand there are two things involved here. One, the knowledge that is going to be shared here is important. But more important than the knowledge is Allah accepting this as an amal from us. I repeat, there are two things involved here. One is the knowledge that we are going to gain from each other as part of the conversations. But more importantly than the knowledge, or more important than the knowledge, is Allah accepting this as an amal from us. We are told in the narrations of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam that when people gather in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting the book, what happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends upon them sakinah. وَغَشَّتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. The angels are so pleased that they are going to surround them with their wings. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be pleased that Allah is going to speak about those people and He's going to boast about them. Now imagine the population of this country, not less than 2 million people. When the flyers were out that there is going to be a program at Senegal in each hotel, they were shared all over social media. Say 100 people, 100,000 people could have seen those flyers. Say 50,000, say 25,000. Imagine if this place here was a barren land of about 25,000 people gathered, and a caller is to call from behind and your name is sung or your name is mentioned. What's going to be the level of ecstasy, of joy, of happiness in you that Allah has chosen you out of 25,000 people? That Allah chose you out of 50,000, 100,000 people. But Allah has chosen each one of us here from not less than 2 million people to come and attend this. Imagine if that is shown to you on the day of Qiyamah, when every human being is going to be present. No one will be absent. The jinns are going to be present. Angels are going to be present. And this gathering here is going to be shown to you from the good deeds that you have done. That is why more important than the knowledge is to ask Allah to accept this from us. For we know that one little good deed that Allah accepts from any one of us, just one little good deed that which has been done with ikhlas, just one good deed could be sufficient that you get Jannah. Could just be sufficient for Jannah. May Allah accept it from us. The discussion is on depression. It is said that today the world has progressed technologically. Do we agree? Yes. That even that old man in Nyomi, Albreda, who has never been to Congo, for example, you ask him about the latest phones, they know about it. Most of the people, even despite the fact that they have not gone to school, they know about the latest iPhones in town, the Samsungs in town. Yes, we all do. But most people ask them about the next thing that happens to their souls after death. They cannot discuss that. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. Most of us are definitely oblivious of what happens to our souls beyond us. And that is why where the world has actually progressed technologically, more than that rate, the world has retrogressed in terms of morals and values. And that retrogression, to a greater extent, has also contributed to the depression that everyone feels today. Our battles are just different, but everyone is disordered in today's society. Everyone is fighting a battle in your own way. Somebody, it's depression because he has lost a loved one. It could be a husband passing away at a very tender age. I have seen that of a lady whose husband died just 1 year into their marriage. She lost the husband to a car accident. And 2 years, 3 years later, she is finding it absolutely difficult, even to this day, to put herself together. I have seen a gentleman who dedicated a recent award that he got to his late wife, who actually passed on a few years into their marriage. It could be a source of depression. It could be a change of circumstance in your life. You probably were a very rich person, and all of a sudden circumstances change, and mashallah, the qadr of Allah comes up over you. So there could be financial depression as well. But how do you overcome these things? So we are going to know or understand that depression comes. There is clinical depression. Yes, medically, depression is a disease, it's a sickness. And from the conditions that most of us are also confronted with, we find ourselves depressed as a result of different issues, different circumstances around us. Sometimes your depression is because of ingratitude. How do we mean? The Prophet ﷺ said, when you look at those who are in front of you, you equally should look at those behind you, isn't it? Now, most often than not, imagine somebody spending 1 hour of his time or her time moving from one status to the other status, one status to the other status. And I'm talking about WhatsApp, man. Wallahi, sometimes you sit down and with your phone you spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You're not doing anything except watching status. We all know you spend like 2 hours on Facebook, you're not even bored. And most often than not, you're looking at that colleague of yours, you were in the same madrasa, you were in the same school. 5 years later, he's in the UK, he's in the US, he's in Germany, he's in this, he's in that. And as a result of that, you tend to question yourself, and Allah, you end up questioning Allah as to why He decreed that. Subconsciously you do. If He could be in this condition, why not me? Who are you questioning? That was the decree of Allah. And that risk that Allah has blessed him with, it was decreed 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth. When Allah commanded the pen to write, Allah commanded the pen, everything that which would have happened, which is to happen, which will happen, which will never happen, everything perfectly recorded in the knowledge of one Allah. You questioned Allah? Because he has been your colleague in the madrasa, you school together. Today he has his compound and you don't have a compound. 2 days ago I met a 77-year-old man, 77 years, who told me that he spent a good number of years in Europe. From one country to the other, hopping from one country to the other. He realized that all these places were not meant for him. He came back to the Gambia, learned something, and then started doing that. A trade. After 40 good years, somebody he met, 40 years in Europe, came down to Africa and then asked for the old man. When they met finally, the old man took him to his compound and he said, this place belongs to me. Took him to one of his gardens, a big dimension. He says, this place also belongs to me. That place also belongs to me. After 40 years in Europe, he his friend started sobbing and crying and crying and crying that I have wasted 40 years of my life in Europe. This is what you have been able to gather while in this country. Why do you think I'm bringing this story to you? Because while you are imagining that your friend outside succeeded because he changed destination, Allah is teaching you and I that risk belongs to Allah. And He gives it to whom He wishes at whatever place you find yourself. And most of the time, the depression of our time is related to wealth. Allahu yabsutu rizqahu liman yasha. Allah gives rizq to whom He wishes. But Allah does what? وَيَقْدِرُ. He also straightens the life of anybody who wishes. Allah has made this an eye for you and I. How often do we reflect on these things? So is depression actually prevalent in our societies? Yes, it is. There are so many symptoms of depression. Amongst them, sometimes you feel that boredom, tiredness. And in the worst case scenario, you feel like you even need to commit suicide. That is why people are killing themselves, especially in the outside world, because there is no iman in them. Do you understand that it gets to a certain stage, there are certain things in life you can never explain. So what do? If you like to tell that, and then you calm down. It tends to give you that courage and that wisdom to understand that there are certain things I cannot change because they were decreed by Allah. But you are also responsible for your own conditions. Conditions of ingratitude. It is our responsibility to work on them. And when I say ingratitude here, it is not meant to be derogatory, right? We are looking at a circumstance where we as young people look at ourselves and look at our colleagues and we begin that comparison. The Nabi ﷺ said, when you look at the one in front of you, look at the one behind you, so that you become grateful to Allah. If you are depressed, certain things come into your life. One of them is that you feel aloofness. Being aloof here means you do not want to socialize with the people. You want to be all alone. And these are very hard times in somebody's life. You know, if we want to fake our lives to say, I am not depressed, most often than not we lie to ourselves. Sometimes it is situational. It could be just for a day, 2 days, after a week. You get over the stress, right? And sometimes you only manage with the stress. So you meet the guys, boy, manager, and we all tease each other and say, Gambia, everybody is a manager. Because the circumstances are such that they eat up your heart. Imagine somebody who leaves his house in the morning, goes to work, comes back home, empty pocket. Meanwhile, there's a son, there's a daughter, there's a wife, whose responsibility is on your shoulders. Imagine getting your salary at the end of the month and 1 week into the next month, your salary is finished. There is going to be financial depression, obviously. So how do we actually manage this? Allah, if Allah is not your friend, you will suffer. And the one who suffers more is the one who has nowhere to turn to. You know what they call a shoulder to lean on? When you have a trouble, a long day, bored, tired, you come back home and you have that gentle woman who Allah has blessed you with. You go to her and she said, you know what, it's going to be fun. Just trust in yourself, trust in Allah. You have that woman who will walk you down to the gate and say, you know, brother, akhi, when you go out, try the best that you can. Make sure whatever you're bringing down to the home is halal. If you don't have it, wallahi, come back to us. We are going to manage with the hunger in this world. You are told that the Nabi ﷺ for 2 good months, not less than 60 days, no fire would be lit in his house. One day he walked with Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He picked up a date from the ground and gave it to Bilal. Bilal said, oh Nabi, I don't do this. He wiped it to eat it. Wallahi, Bilal, for 3 days, no food has entered into the tummy. Yet he would call on Allah and he would never despair of the mercy of Allah. You remember the Sahabi who came to the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, Nabi, I'm hungry, I don't have food. The The Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam himself had no food in the house. Who will entertain these guests on my behalf? Another Sahabi took him to his house. When they got to the house, it was the woman. This is a guest from the Nabi of Allah. Please entertain him. The woman said there was absolutely no food in the house, except for a very little food, and it is also for the kids. He instructed the wife, lull them to sleep. And that is exactly what the wife did. Imagine looking at your son in the face, looking at your daughter in the face. Because there is no food in the house. Only to invite that guest to eat from the little that is left. They will prefer other people above themselves even when they are in their need. That was how they lived their lives. That is why we are told the Sahaba, you can have time to their wealth, no problem. You can enjoy their wealth with them. They can share it freely. They are not worried about that. The Prophet ﷺ wouldn't have food in his house for 60 days, yet you come to him, the little that he has, he will give it to you. Even for a clothing, he will give it to you. Yet he did not enjoy that luxury. One day, Umar bin al-Khattab came to him and he started crying because the Nabi ﷺ had no good bedding. But he was content with that. Today we are not stressed because there are troubles in this world, because people are not calling unto Allah, because there is lack of tawheed in the society. We are not stressed about that. We are stressed because I don't have much money. We are stressed because my friend has a compound, I don't have a compound. We are not even stressed because you have not read a juzu for the last 1 month. We are not stressed because your adhkar for morning and evening that you have been commanded to be steadfast on has been missing. You are not even stressed because there has been a break in your tahajjud. Most often than not, that desire for tahajjud only comes in when you realize that you're looking for something. It is a visa that you're looking for. I want to get married. MashaAllah, the istikhara has started. Every night you have this. Subhanallah. And when you get that wife, before you realize it, give it 1 week. After the sunnah 1 week is done, no more tahajjud. And when things turn bad, we feel depressed. Right? Under what circumstances would we? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah la yakhfa alayhi shay'un fi al-ardi wa la fis sama. It does not matter whether it is very small, very minute, that the human eye cannot see. Allah knows about it. That is why Yunus alayhi salam, in the belly of the whale, imagine in the depth of darkness, fankaso idumala, ba dibokon, suto dibola, ay ala kumandi, la ilaha illa anta subhanaka, neathra ma ala kumandi, la labith fi badnihi, ila yawmi yab'athun. In that condition, he called on Allah, and the malaika from mala condition of Allah. Sabari sadima. Bari mansum yana kabe samfata warulo e santola. Aya boy mimbekeri. Aya long mimbekeri. Aya bonde wo condition of. Bari ale yamarodi. Ning aya talaka mon kumandiro ke alala no. Metiala. So yajele ngadiamo mimbeke asutiata luta na jamfata. Mimmo kuo kumati wale mnyita wale limani ya mono. Ila problemo fo ina jate kende ala problemo le. Fo fuware ya kolemo le miye ma. Fo batale miye ma. Ni sabarita ya ala kumandebe ala soto. Ni ala soto fengo fe miye ala kwa edeu. Kabo fengo luto miye ala kwa wali yisida ala lebe wasaka. Adun ale momi wasa. Wale ganyeta fe dunya wala akhira. Momi ala kwa ala ya atu afambulu. Animisata bonota kasarata. Wala nakila alayhi salatu wasalam ka ala dani kanan tu fa wala tafatai ana be kana nyabiti de nyaayero ti Allah kanan futu fan niyo kantu ning alay jomoto afambula be kasara dali wala tin kabenjam pour ka kachayim yinnal ka yo hakiko le bulani kandu limaniamo alay min fo wala nyiti ko hadi wala do ka wala tinne ko sama busata ay busa banko kan yiri famali fali bare sama ka busa fankaso kon ayatara jibe fankaso kan dum dafe mulle fana be je ben fana sunata wa samaji limaniamo mi yalon kay ala suti asonta alama abe ala batula abe sawarle ala la koto ika ala fa wala ya ala fa atano akakela ko miraw ni ala fa ya ka wonne so kila korda bulana tinkira jam kana jam ka ala da mali ni wala tinna ngadiyamo dati minna wala nyinto ko londo kuma yata nyaaw nyaanyi mi nyo hakilo bulande ayon ni hadithu minna minkum ma yata beti katabbe wolondoti wala nyinto ko mansatalla yetunya ala ma fala yetunya da ba wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin